Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and before I start this video, let me preface by saying that no, I didn't get no review copy or anything of Anthem. In fact, I did get a free copy. I bought a graphic card recently that actually came with this game for free. Now, this game wasn't actually on my radar. For me, I don't like EA as a company. I don't care. But if I get a game that's for free over there, it's kind of just a disservice to not even fire it up. And I figured I might as well. And I did. You know, I tried it. I put a fair bit of time into it. Nothing, you know, nothing of like, you know, the 40, 50 hour mark. But I put a fair amount of time into it that it gives me an accurate, I believe that I'm accurate in telling you guys what I think about it. So let me begin by saying this. Anthem has some cool points to it, but this is actually one of those situations where this game is going to be the cause of the closing down of probably one of my favorite game studios. Now, I like Bioware, okay? I think Bioware makes really good games. I think that, you know, Bioware has had a history of beautiful titles. You know, these guys made Knights of the Old Republic. They've made my favorite series, which is the Mass Effect series from them. They made Dragon Age, which, you know, that series has had one blunder, you know, in its way. But for the most part, BioWare has the ability to tell a really cool story in really engaging worlds. You know, if I go back and look at Mass Effect, no matter what I think about BioWare now or whatever, or EA, those games will never be taken away. They'll be on my top 10 games of all time. There's something so exhilarating about going through the cinematic universe and going through, you know, their RPG gameplay that just sort of melts together and becomes a really successful game. You know, these are titles that I could replay over and over and over again, and they're good titles. I would say that the titles BioWare has made in the past have pushed the medium forward, and congratulations to them. But Anthem is not one of them. You know, I talked about this way back with before this game came out when I really looked at a lot of these looter shooters, the fact that they had online-only capabilities, and they really didn't seem too different from one another. So I guess I'll give you guys a fair assessment of what I see Anthem as. Now, I'll give the positives over real quick before I go into the meat of the story. First of all, the game looks really good. I think if you're buying a graphics fucking showpiece, if you're buying graphic porn in this instance, this game might be the title for you. I've ran it on Ultra 3440 by 1440. The game does not really hit 60 smooth, but you know, I G-Sync my way through it. The game looks really good. Like if you're looking at the game, I don't think there's a lot of people that say that the game doesn't have that look to it. It's got a nice art style and everything. The gameplay is nice for like the first hour and a half, 2-3 hours, and then you sort of realize that all the effects sort of look the same. The new suits that you end up getting really don't do a whole lot much differently. In fact, from what I've heard with other reviewers, that there's a whole middle section of the game. So basically the entry and the end game sort of have stuff going for it, but that middle section is just a tad sparse. But I mean, the gameplay is what it is, what you expect. It's serviceable, it's fine, but I don't think it's anything too groundbreaking from what I've seen in other looter shooter titles. I can compare this game to Warframe in a way, and in a way I would say that this game slightly beats Warframe when it comes to you buy the game for $60 and I guess you can earn all the suits as you level up, whereas in Warframe you gotta grind for your suits and then also wait like 3 days to get them. I mean, it's a difference of opinion at that point, right? Like I would probably put Warframe over this just because I find the story in Warframe to be better, which is that going to lead into a negative, by the way, for this title. But yeah, those are about my only net positives for it. I mean, the game looks good, and I guess technically the game plays all right, but that's where it ends, boys and girls, because then we get into the laundry list of problems with this game, because for me, the biggest issue is the fucking story. If I'm playing a BioWare game where I don't get enthralled by the story, we've done something wrong. I usually don't skip cutscenes in a video game, but this game has been so unengaging with me mentally. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm not clicking into the universe as effectively, or maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I have just not been getting into this story. You know, there's things about arc in this, and then it's like it's kind of one of those sci-fi stories where they toss you these really out there terminologies, and I guess the only saving grace here is you can like pull up a codex and read about them every once in a while. But dude, I don't want to sit there and read your story. Just make it palatable. You didn't have to do it with Mass Effect. You could play through that whole game without reading the fucking codex. You could play through any of Bioware games without reading a fucking codex. This is the one game where it's like, all right, let's pass out, bring out a dictionary, read what the fucking definition of this bullshit is. And that's really what it is, man. The world seems like it has something of interest to it, but then it dulls away. And the story just isn't engaging. It really fucking isn't. And I just can't. The little bits of story I find across the game, I guess it really doesn't add much. At the end of the day, the story just doesn't hit the mark. So when I'm playing a Bioware game, which, the gameplay is serviceable, but again, it's inferior to every other shooter I've played in this category, and the graphics are okay, then I really don't have a game that's really worth playing, if you catch my drift. See, if I play something like, I don't know, The Division or even Destiny, that's created by people who understand this type of gameplay really well. And honestly, Bioware games have never really had the best-in-class gameplay, in my opinion. Like, for perfect example here, if you ask me, BioWare's Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 were great stories, but I think when it came to video games, they were definitely not that impressive, in my opinion. Like, the shooter mechanics were definitely toned down from other games at the time. The RPG mechanics were definitely dialed back. If I would have to say it, Mass Effect Andromeda probably had the best shooting mechanics and even the RPG mechanics to an extent when it came down to speccing your characters. But I guess that might be heresy to say. But you see, we're at the situation where, like, the gameplay is serviceable, the graphics are great, but the story isn't there. So basically what you expect out of BioWare to succeed hasn't fucking happened. And that's a big negative with this title. The other thing that's a problem with this is the idea of having this online-only MMO sphere. I guess if anybody could have done it, it probably would have been BioWare, but I see so much of EA creeping into this from the back end that it's almost hilarious. Like, there are so many aspects of this game that seem ripe for monetization. Like, we're talking about stores literally ripped right out of, like, big game, like, microtransaction heavy hitters right now. This has EA's stamp of approval written all over it, but I don't think it has anywhere close to BioWare's proper stamp of approval. And it's a weird trend you see with the company as well. This is a company that had an amazing Game of the Year game called Dragon Age Inquisition, a game that I actually haven't played at all because I've never been so into Dragon Age. I tried playing the original one. It wasn't that great, in my opinion. Like, I wasn't feeling it. I might go back and retry it. But then they released Mass Effect Andromeda, which definitely shat all over the series, and it left a black mark on this company. But at the time, we were told to believe that Mass Effect Andromeda was made by a fucking B company. This is the A team that made Anthem. So in theory, this should be a fucking godsend from the company. But it really wasn't. And now that when you play Anthem and you realize that, wow, Mass Effect and potentially Dragon Age and any other IP they had under their belt fucking died for this, it's almost scary. BioWare's talents could have been better spent making another Knights of the Old Republic game. I mean, if EA is going to fucking keep that license and hoard it around, fucking take it away from DICE. Give it to a team that fucking cares. The thing about this game, and why I told you that BioWare was going to shut down, though, in the beginning, was just due to the fact that this is another one of EA's big fucking shit stains on the company. This is EA being EA. And don't get me wrong, BioWare definitely had something to do with it. BioWare is nowhere near the BioWare it used to be, so they have some fault in this too. But this is a classic EA trick of basically taking really good game companies and making them produce really shitty games. You can look at the developers of Medal of Honor Warfighter. You can look at Dead Space 3. A lot of those games were released or advertised or put, for example, you look at something like Dead Space 3. Microtransactions up the ass. Probably not Visceral's thought, but EA wanted some of that microtransaction money. Same thing with same thing with Medal of Honor Warfighter. They build it alongside Battlefield. They end up screwing the game on launch, end up screwing up even support for it, and next thing you know, developers get shit canned. Same thing with BioWare. This is like their second strike. By EA standards, they would have been out by Mass Effect Andromeda, and that game lost support as soon as it came out. BioWare's Anthem, yeah, they might have a roadmap, but let's hope this game makes a turnaround, because if it doesn't, then it's going to drop support quicker than expected, and the company is going to dissolve, and that's the end of BioWare. It's EA basically fucking releasing these shit tier games and shutting down potentially great companies out of it. I really hope at the end of the day, Anthem turns around and does well, but I'm still waiting for fucking Fallout 76 to turn around and do well either. So at this point, these games have become giant waiting fests for me. They become the new No Man's Sky. Is it hopefully going to be a better title than it was when it came out? Well, we have yet to find out. But to be honest with you, somebody that really didn't have any interest in Anthem until you realize that, wow, fucking Mass Effect Andromeda got shit canned because the teams were divided over these projects. And this one was given. It was given that given that designation of being the superior project. I still had no interest, but when you get a game for free, your expectations are reduced. And if my expectations haven't even been met by that point, I could only imagine the people who spent $60 on this. Again, I would like to say though, if you do enjoy Anthem, enjoy it all you want. Call it a day. This is just one other Indian guy on the internet making his fucking opinion, and that's really it. It's kind of like a review. It's subjective. It's an opinion for the person that's making it. But hopefully I've made enough points to tell you why I think this game is like the way it is for me. Because I see potential in something like Anthem, but at the same time I see a game solely made to chase after the trends of looter shooters. And I mean, fuck, I could only imagine an EA executive looking at this map and saying, man, could this have made a great battle royale map, It's just one of those situations. So hopefully BioWare doesn't get dissolved. Hopefully the company makes a turnaround. Hopefully the next game they make is great. But I've said hopefully way too much. So let's be a little real. Let's get back to planet Earth and see how things go for the next few months with this title. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been me, Mutahar. And if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.